Let's move to the subject of conflict or subjects which are associated with each other: conflict, stress, and anger, etc. Now, generally, these are supposed to be bad or negative. Sometimes conflict is supposed to be good, but generally, they are supposed to be negative things, bad things. And I don't agree. I would say it is inevitable, inescapable, unavoidable, and some of it is good. So the only thing is you have to deal with conflict, stress, and anger, and you have to handle it. There is no running away from it. It's just not possible. Because essentially, when you want to do something in life or in a business or in an organization, when you want to move things, there is likely to be conflict, intended, unintended, because of various reasons: people, human psychology, moods, egos, procedures, accidents, many things. And and if you look at the world of, again going back to physics and mechanics, the world of motion, you generally see that when there is motion there is friction. I mean, and if there is no friction there can't be any motion. A vehicle can't move if the tires do not have that surface, rugged surface, and there is some friction. If there is, otherwise there will be slippage. There has to be some friction. Coefficient of friction can't be zero between the tire and the road, where the rubber hits the road. There has to be some friction. If there is no friction there will be no movement. So some friction is necessary for motion, and motion creates friction. Without friction motion is not possible, and motion itself creates friction. There is inertia involved. When you want to transmit motion from one shaft to another through a gear, through gears or a gear train or a drive train, the the tooth head wheel, a gear is a tooth head wheel, another gear is another tooth head wheel. The tooth head wheel of one gear, one tooth pushes another tooth of the other gear. This gear is on one shaft, the other gear is on the other shaft. The gear tooth pushes this, so the motion is transmitted to the other gear and through the other shaft. So that's how that's how motion transmission takes place. Now, because the gears are in motion, gears have to touch and propel each other towards motion. The teeth have to come in contact, so there is going to be friction, there is going to be wear and tear. And if you don't have friction and wear and tear, you just keep that separate, then then you can't transmit motion. So if you want to transmit motion, friction is inescapable, unavoidable, indispensable, whatever you call it. And you deal with it by maybe lubricating it and then replacing gears and whatever repairs are necessary and all that. So essentially, conflict has to be seen as something that is like, there is effect. If there is effect, there is going to be side effect. If there is product, there is going to be byproduct. If there is usage, there is going to be wastage, some percentage. You can't have light without heat. I mean, ideally, there is always heat loss, which we don't want, but there is always heat loss, inescapable. Nature doesn't allow it. When you produce electricity and you want to produce light, basically you want to light up homes and offices and all that, some heat, light is lost, some energy is lost through heat, and there is no way out. Nature doesn't permit you to do that. So what do? There is no signal without noise. There is some noise. There is going to be movement, and there is going to create some, that is going to, if you move a piece of furniture around, there is going to be some sound, some unpleasant noise, some wear and tear, some friction. So product has byproduct, use has wastage, light has heat, sound and music, noise is again inevitable. So these are like, one thing goes with the other. It is part of the game. It is the other part of the coin. Some percentage is involved in it. So you can't have zero conflict. Sometimes it's possible, but generally there is going to be some conflict, a little bit here and there and all. And if you run away from it, then you can't do anything in life or in organizations. If you want some progress, some work, anything in the world of action, or the material world of business or work or career or profession or karma, essentially. And if in the world of karma, most of us have to live in that world, and karma has to be dharma, that has to be the religion, then you can't avoid it. And if you avoid it, then nothing gets done. You will do nothing. So either you have to retire, or maybe go to the Himalayas, become a monk or a sannyasi or some sage or something like that. How many can renounce the world? How many can do that? Would want to do that? Should do that? That's not good. So nothing will change, any progress, any development would require this. So shying away from it doesn't work. Conflict is going to be there. Conflict has to be handled when it arises, and it has to be dealt with. It has to be managed. That's it. Running away from it will, if you run away from it, that is escapism. Then you are giving up on things. You are abandoning projects. You are saying, oh, this is going to be this situation is going to create a conflict. So let's not get into that. So you keep on avoiding conflict. And this avoidance might mean that you are stalling things, you are putting brakes on things, and nothing gets done. So, is that what you want to do? I don't think so. And so, conflict has to be accepted, that there is a possibility. We don't want it, but if it happens, the idea is to get something done. And while doing that, the idea is to move forward for progress, for getting things done, for doing something. And while doing something, if conflict arises, we have to handle it, we have to manage it, we have to take care, that's all we can do about it. So, and when there is conflict, there is going to be stress, and stress can also be a part of overwork and other things and all. So when there is work, there is going to be stress. So again, inescapable, unavoidable, and necessary also. If there is no stress, a student wouldn't prepare for the exams. He is not afraid, there is no anxiety. So then he doesn't study, then he would fail. And if there is no performance anxiety, you don't do any preparation, then you don't do well. So that anxiety is necessary. Sometimes stress, excitement produces adrenaline rush, and that gives you energy. That excitement or excitation gives you the energy to move. So your blood pressure has to go up. If your blood pressure is 0, you will be dead. Some blood pressure has to go up. It will come down. It goes up and down. If it is too high, and if it doesn't go down, then there are ways of dealing with it. So stress again is unavoidable, and you can't run away from it unless you want to become a monk, go to the Himalayas and renounce the world like Buddha. And even Buddha was involved in preaching and all that. So he was still, but you live in solitude, cut off human contact, contemplate and do stuff like that, do vipassana or whatever. Just give up on the world. How many people can do that or should do that? Is that the right way to do? For most of us, it is not good. It is not even desirable. And if we want something that we have to live this life, accept these things as inescapable parts and parcel, basically. So stress is necessary because it produces adrenaline and all that, produces a little bit of raises your blood pressure, and that's how you get moving. If there is 0 blood pressure, you are dead. There has to be some pressure. Life is basically heat. Cold is death. So there is heat, there is pressure, there is motion. All this is part of life, inescapably wound up in it. So there is no way out of this. Anger again is going to be there, connected again, another situation or system, part and parcel of this package of conflict and stress. Sometimes anger is good sometimes, because when you are angry, you are energized and you do things, you try to solve problems. You don't sit down. If you are depressed, you sit in a corner and don't talk to people and never move. If you are angry, you are energized. And that anger energizes others around you also. If you get angry at somebody, sometimes only then they move. Sometimes you need to get angry at people or angry with people, otherwise they just don't move. to get them out of their comfort zone or their inertia, you have to maybe get angry at them or angry with them. Otherwise, that just doesn't happen. Sometimes they take it as a sign of weakness. I'm not saying deliberately doing it. And anger is natural. I mean, it would be impossible for a normal human being not to get angry at times. So if you just never try to and you need to vent it out, it's like a pressure relief. You are letting off steam. And I mean, you have to be careful about it and not going to see to it that somebody's anger is vented on somebody else and all that. You have to take care. But if you keep it bottled down and repress it, it's going to create problems later on also. Then you will explode or maybe have some other mental illness or psychosomatic illness or physical illness. So there is going to be anger. Expressing anger is quite natural. Expressing anger is useful. Getting angry is useful because it energizes you. Psychologists say that anger is a more useful emotion than depression, because when you are in a problem situation or a crisis or a situation, you fight. Anger gives you the energy to fight. It stimulates you to fight. A depressed person would kind of, if he's in a hole, he will stay inside that hole. He would just not move. Catatonic, schizophrenic kind of depression. So anger is also good, and it gets you energized. It gives you some sort of pressure. It's like a pressure relief valve. It energizes you. It energizes people around you. They don't work unless they see that you are angry. Sometimes they need to see that you are angry. Otherwise, they are also in their comfort zone. These are simple, natural things. So I do not understand why they are made out to be bad stuff. I mean, like, I am amazed that most gurus of most hues or all sorts of hues, whether spiritual gurus or religious gurus or motivational gurus or management gurus, generally try to talk about eliminating these things or escaping from these things or getting rid of these things. It just doesn't work like that. I don't know why they don't appreciate this basic fact. Most of them do not seem to appreciate this fact that in this life of action or work or karma, these things are inescapable, indispensable. There is going to be conflict when you want to move things, when you want to work, when you want to get things done. There is going to be stress if you live life. Even if you don't, and some people would be stressed by it is natural. Type A personality would be stressed even if he is not doing something. He is prone, type A person is prone to stress, more stress prone. So even if whether he does something or not doesn't do anything, he is going to have stress. And some people say, don't take stress. You don't take stress. It happens to you. You can't control it. It's not that, no, I'm welcoming it. Let me get stressed up. I'm not saying I want stressors in my life. It happens, it arises, and I can't help it. I just have to learn to live with it, control it, manage it, and handle it. I'm not saying I want to be stressed and I want to be under stress. Nobody wants to be under stress. But it is a byproduct that happens. And some people have that personality. They are easily stressed. They are called type A persons. And that's their type. They can't do anything about it. Type B persons are less likely to be stress prone. And they don't get stressed easily. But what do you do? I mean, you can't just give up on life and abandon things if you want to remove stress or run away from it. So there is no way out. And that's not even desirable. So gurus should stop talking about eliminating stress and eliminating conflict and eliminating anger and all that. Sometimes these things are indispensable, unavoidable, inescapable. And sometimes these things like anger and all are good. Stress is good at times because it makes you ready, willing to prepare things and study, and otherwise you will not perform. Anger is energizing you. If you get angry, then that person is moving. Otherwise, he is not moving. You shout at somebody, yell at somebody, then that person moves. I'm not saying that is a good thing. Ideally, it should not happen like that. But sometimes it happens. It's natural. Nothing wrong with it. I'm saying the extremes have to be avoided when it becomes counterproductive, and extreme conflict, extreme stress, when it serves no useful purpose and it just creates havoc wreaks havoc on your health and others' health and creates problems of all sorts. That is not what I'm talking about here. I'm saying normal stuff. And in normal stuff and normal life, these things, you can't run away from it. You can't escape from them. So you deal with these things. You have stress. There are ways to deal with stress. You do exercise, play sports, listen to music, play music, do things that you like, try to have fun, do relaxation through yoga, meditation, Padmasan, Shavasana, do Vipassana, whatever works for you. Do go to have counseling or therapy, psychiatry, medicine, maybe drink. Some people drink where it is allowed and it is legal to remove stress or have some depression and have some fun in their life. So people have to deal with these things. That is part and parcel of life. Sturm and Drang, storm and stress of life. German word is Sturm and Drang. So that's necessary. I mean, if you want to live, only this is possible only if you are a kind of a supernatural, divine, spiritual, different kind of a being who never gets angry and still gets done. Maybe there are exceptional people like that. That is fantastic. If you can manage things with zero conflict, zero stress, and zero anger, fantastic, nothing like it. I'm not saying that, but that doesn't work out to be the case for most of us. So we have to accept that reality and look at it in the right perspective rather than shutting it down or running away from it and avoiding it or escaping it and stuff like that. So this is essentially one area where I have found that, I mean, conventional literature also talks about conflict being good and all that, and stress. There is eustress, good stress, and distress, bad stress, and all that. But generally, unfortunately, when I listen to or see these gurus of various views, I do not see them appreciative of this fact. And I think that is something stupid and wrong. And it works if you want to renounce this world, or if you want to retire, and if you want to live alone and by yourself and all that. When there is human contact, human interaction, even without human interaction, there could be stress. And with human interaction also, there could be stress. Both are possible. You come too close to a person, you are likely to bang heads against each other or likely to embrace each other. So stay away from each other, nothing will happen. Neither affection, neither a fight, neither quarrel. If you are distant, then there is no quarreling, there is no love. If you are close, both the aspects are possible. Affection and love, positive things are also possible, and negative things like conflict and quarrel are also possible. Living in isolation would remove all that, but that is not what most of us can do or want to do or should do. So that must be accepted, understood in the right perspective. One simply has to learn to deal with it, handle it, and manage it, so that it doesn't get out of proportion, doesn't become counterproductive, and have other sorts of bad effect on the morale, employees, health, organization, and all that. Doesn't become destructive or counterproductive. That's all. Otherwise, bad mouthing anger and saying conflict must be avoided and stress must be done away with is just not going to cut it. As simple as that. Thank you.